Hey guys, how's it going? Well, I'm doing another sweet little mod to this car. Look, it's one I heard that people were doing. It's the installation of a Plenum spacer up underneath the intake manifold. I'm not convinced of its value, but I really wanted to try it. I think a lot of times, you know, you see these done and you think, well, I wonder if that would work on my car. And well, curiosity got the better of me, and here I am. I ordered one, and I'm now about to install it. So this one's from Mace Engineering. You guys would know Mace Engineering. They make tons of stuff for all different cars, and this one is their 12mm Plenum spacer for the LFX V6 3.6. So this should bolt in pretty easily. I'm gonna have to remove a few things first. Of course, the engine cover, probably some vacuum hoses and a few other bits. Got some tools there and a bit of time on my hands, so I thought I'd give it a crack. The idea of these is to basically remove the heat from the intake manifold. So, you know, this particular spacer, it's made of a material that insulates the heat really well. I would like to call it Bakelite. Being an electrician as I am, Bakelite used to be a form of plastic that was actually also a very good insulator of not only electricity but heat, and this sort of looks and feels very much like that. It's probably not, but it's definitely some sort of a polymer that insulates the heat, and the benefit of that would be that the intake itself would remain a little bit cooler. How much cooler, I don't know, but we're going to soon find out. And I suppose while ever the intake's cooler, the air that goes into the motor is cooler and denser for that matter. So more oxygen into the motor means a little bit better efficiency and maybe a bit more power for that matter. So, well, I'm going to chuck this in, see if it works. If it works, great. If not, well, I guess it was worth a try, and I'd probably just leave it. But I have seen some guys in America that have similar motors in their Camaros and other V6 vehicles for that matter, and they seem to be having a bit of luck with these. In fact, a couple of guys have raved about them. So, hey, that was good enough for me to give it a try. So I'm going to do that. They provide you, of course, with the spacer itself, some liquid gasket maker, and these 6 bolts, because they'll, of course, need to be slightly longer because they're going to be standing, well, the manifold's going to be standing about the 12mm higher. So let's get cracking on this, and we'll see if this is even worthwhile, and if so, believe me, I'll let you know. But, well, my jury's out. I'm not entirely convinced it will work, but there's only one way to find out, and that is to install the damn thing. What's interesting is I've actually taken just the engine cover off now, and feeling the intake plenum itself. It is actually quite warm. I suppose that's to be expected. You're going to get a lot of heat accumulated in here. It's actually warmer than I would have thought. And in fact, these bolts coming up through here, they're hot as. The top of these bolts actually burnt my hand on one before when I was leaning on it. So there's obviously there's going to be heaps of heat just coming up through the head, through these bolts. So yeah, I don't know, I guess I feel like this is going to make a difference. The more I'm looking at it, I feel like it's going to make more of a difference than what I even imagined. Being a 12mm, these come in a 25mm, by the way. I think this was about 150 bucks. And look, I mean, if it does what it claims to, then that's a pretty cheap improvement, a nice little gain. I did also speak to a guy about, because I'm going to put an OTR in this car, and obviously we're going to do away with this intake. And I know that the throttle body here will probably be that, well, it will be 12mm higher, and I was interested to know if the OTR would be affected by that slightly higher intake or throttle body. But turns out it's fine. There's actually a rubber boot on the VCM OTR, and probably other OTRs for that matter, that the rubber boot has a lot of adjustment, a lot of movement, so the 12mm shouldn't give it a hard time. The 25mm, I believe, takes the top of the LFX motor to almost hitting the bonnet itself. So you know, that would be a consideration you'd need to make. I suppose this one will be slightly closer, but I'm sure that 12mm will not give us a problem. So that's, you know, look, if I had to, I'd just leave the engine cover off. I quite like the Commodore engine covers, so I'd like to leave it in place, but I've just been messing with these clips. These are a pain in the ass. I actually haven't figured out how to get these off. They don't look straightforward. I tried to jam a screwdriver in under there, but I may have to YouTube how to remove this particular clip, because it is just does not want to play the game. Anyway, this is all part of the fun, isn't it? When you do something for the first time, you don't really know what you're getting yourself into, and I guess you come across little challenges like this one. Thank goodness for YouTube, because you can just basically type it in and there's more than one person usually showing you solutions. They were holding this sort of heat shield on at the back here. It's just a paper heat shield, so I just ripped it off. I don't know that it's necessary. A couple of the other videos I've seen, in fact most of them, they don't have this heat shield, so I'm not about to go putting it on. I had to wreck it anyway to get it out of these two clips. If anyone's got a suggestion of how to, I mean, it's too late now anyway, but I would love to know how to get them out. So this little MAF sensor here, this pops out. They're in really tight, by the way. I thought I was gonna break it pulling it out. I'm telling you, this is not an easy disassemble. Everything is super tight, but regardless, it's I think a T20 Torx bit, so just pull that out. There's also another little kind of barbed cable tie adapter here, so yeah, set that aside, and I guess we're gonna have to look at removing this vacuum line. It's a pretty stiff line, this one. I might have to get to probably down this end. Geez, that is stiff. There's not a lot of movement on that at all, so I may have to figure out a way to, because I know that this has got to twist about 90 degrees to free it up. So that'll be my next job. Just going to use a 7mm socket to take this ring off, and I'm really hoping that this just pulls off. Let's see if that comes away without a fight. Oh yeah, easy. Well, that's enough anyway. Yep, plenty. Okay. Good to know. I think this is the 70mm. I know a lot of guys increase the size of their throttle body to about an 80mm. You need a tune for that. But yeah, I think the OTR, by the time I put the OTR on, that should be about enough. Yeah, it'd be nice to increase the size of that throttle body, see how much of a difference it makes. I believe it does make a big difference. So, but that'll be a job for another day. Found another vacuum hose just over in the back here with another little hose clamp. This one's going to need a pair of pliers and a bit of elbow grease to get that to come off. Yep, easy. So I've been hearing that this bolt at the very rear of the plenum is going to be difficult to get out, and I can see why. Obviously, you know, it's right under here, and but I've got a socket with a 13mm bit. I think this should take it out easy enough. I just wonder how I'm going to go actually pulling it up and out. Okay, good news is I went back online. A guy was explaining that this actually doesn't need to come out just yet. In theory, I should be able to pull this plenum away, and because it's still going to be attached to the intake manifold. So the idea will be I'll just kind of help that out a little bit. It's going to be difficult to get this back in, especially, oh man, especially with the extra 13mm. By the way, I don't have a torque wrench, so getting these back to around the same tension is, well, it's going to be guesswork. I should point out to you as well, there's a clip just down in here beside the throttle body. I guess it's the electronic control to the throttle body motor, so that needs to come off as well. Actually, this clip is much like, I think it's the same clip as the one that I took off the pedal assembly, the throttle assembly in the car, you know, in the footwell when I put the throttle controller on. In fact, I did that this morning. So I think it's the same clip, And from memory, you got to pull the red tab back, and then there's a little black, oh yeah, it is, a screwdriver would be helpful. They put this in the shitty, oh there, look at this, easy. Oh, there you go. Pull that right out of the way and it's a piece of cake. Yeah, there's this little black part that you've got to sort of push in as well. In fact, I'll give you a bit of a look at that. Yeah, I was explaining this in this other video I made. You've got to push this guy down, or you can unclip that all day long, but it won't come. You've got to push that little section as well. Looks like another vacuum hose has come off there. That didn't have, I don't think that had a, oh, it's just, yeah, it's just sitting in there. Wow, okay. No hose clamp on that. Anyway. So this assembly is just attached with this one 10mm bolt, and when I pull that out, the plenum and the intake manifold should come away easily enough. That should, in theory, just pop out of there. Will it? It feels rubberized, so... Oh, fuck, that's tight. Oh, there it is. Jeez, that's tighter than I would have liked it. Anyway, we'll hang on to this bolt because that looks like a rare one. That is something you would really struggle to replace. Well, you could replace it, it'd just be difficult, wouldn't it? Okay. So that's out of the way. It doesn't need to go very far, I'll just keep it sat there and then move these bits and we should be good to... I'll take all these guys out. They can come out now. Oh, this one may be difficult. Oh, jeez, that's going to be a problem too. In fact, you know what? That shouldn't matter. I might just... That should just come when I lift it, but I'll take these others out. These are just gow. These just look to me like gow. They're not... yeah, they just look like gow bolts. They're still hot as anything. And it's, I don't know, probably half an hour after I've started this, so... That's interesting. Okay. Now this should... Is this just going to come? There has to be another bolt there, because I'm telling you, that's tight on something. Oh, right, shit. I think I see... No? Oh, that is. Is it? Is that 2 bolts? Oh, it is. It's actually 2 more bolts at the back. How is that possible? Anyway, whatever, they're going to have to come off. Okay. 2 more bolts at the back. We're so close. Okay, so it's all happening. I've got barking dogs. I've got things that won't move. So, okay, babe, what I need, I've recruited the help of my girlfriend, Sonia, to give us a hand. I need this lifted. Okay. You're going to get your hands dirty, by the way. Okay. So, I just need this lifted and to come out. Now, at the same time, I've got to try and turn it that way so that this guy, I can't get this guy out. Okay.
So that goes closer that way.
Yep.
Are we lifting together?
Kinda, yeah. Oh, hey. Okay, all right, well that's happened. That's good. Okay, now this has now got to turn a bit. And that should just pop. Oh, shit, eh? Okay, it came easier than I thought. Hang on, wait. Let me just let it down a bit. There we go. Oh, come out, you bugger. Is that coming? No. Not without a fight. Okay, anyway, we're close. I might go the other way. Hang on, let that go for a sec. I got it.
Let it go?
Yeah. Man, that's really got to turn. Oh, there we go. Just a little more is all it wanted. Oh, this is going to suck to get it back in. I shouldn't be getting anything into the intake, but not much I can do about it. This guy is a real jerk. Hey, babe. Could you grab me a rag, please? Yeah. Thank you. Oh, there's already a big chunk of wood that I can see that, well, it's a splinter, but it's almost fallen in. Gosh knows what actually made its way in there. Thank you. Can I keep this? Yeah. Cool. Cool. Okay. Just going to throw it over the intake to stop any rubbish. Okay, that's better already. So, what's going to happen is, to me it looks like that should... Oh, there it is. Okay, done. Cool. Oh, wow. Okay. Okay. so this is what you can expect to see under the parts we've removed. I was a bit concerned that we might not be able to reuse that gasket, but we're going to. Yeah, I think it's reusable, so yeah, we'll be fine. Okay, so what we're left with is basically the plenum and the intake manifold. Doesn't look like there's much of a gasket between the two of them, but when we put our spacer in, we're going to put gasket both sides of that liquid gasket. So I'll clean this up a bit and make sure that the gasket is going to be nice and sealed. Okay, so I've taken the 4 bolts out that hold the throttle body into the plenum, and you can see this kind of air baffle. It's I guess I'd like to think that by removing it you might increase airflow. I don't know that it has a purpose. I can't imagine. I guess when the air goes in, somehow it mixes it around. Seems a bit unnecessary to me. I'm not entirely sure what that's about. The other thing that I know a lot of people are doing, there's a guy in the United States who makes a plastic insert for this part. This is just I don't know, like another sort of a form of a baffle. So as the air flows through, you know, it perhaps vortexes down into this area and slows the flow down. I can't imagine what the design of that is, but I have seen this guy. Yeah, he makes a plastic panel or an insert that pops down there and you screw it in. He says that it improves airflow. The jury's out with that one, but I do agree that probably these baffles, you might be wise to actually take those out, and I'm going to do that. I'm just going to pull them out with a pair of pliers and soften out that, or smooth out that edge. I was tempted to use some material to fill that area and give it a nice bit more of a flow, but I just don't see the benefit in filling that. I just think that's a bit of a unnecessary step to take. So anyway, I'm going to take this little part out here. I think that it may not be necessary, but I've heard that it's a good idea. So, and I don't think there's any benefit to leaving it, frankly. So yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, I know that this is a pretty important piece of kit, and I'd hate to think that I'm going to make a big mistake. I mean, these aren't cheap to replace, a couple of $100. So to take that out, geez, I'm in two minds about it, actually. I'm not entirely sure it's the right thing to do. It would take nothing to remove it, but I can't see any necessity for it. To me, it's just, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it somehow benefits the throttle body, but I mean, if you look at this, all that's happening there is that it's just, it's not really, I don't know. I'm just going to take off the intake here off the plenum. Just a few Torx bits. Okay, that's not just pulling off, I'll tell you. Holy shit. Yeah, I mean, I should have known that it was going to be on there pretty tightly, but I hoped I might just... Oh shit, eh? Okay, there it is. Alright, well... Yeah, right, okay. You'd have to think that you could reuse this. These are like a rubber... These are a rubber gasket. Just lining this up here, it's not sitting in super easy, that's for sure. They're not fitting in at all. You'd think they would have drilled them out to perfection, but I also recall seeing that somewhere that these might have a front and back. So if that's the case, I guess we're going to have to figure out which way it has to go. Man, I'll tell you what, that is not... I could drill these. I suppose I could drill these out, couldn't I, really? I may have to do that, I reckon. Anyway, so yeah, that'll go there. And then we're going to clean this off. We'll put some gasket sealer or gasket maker and That was up, wasn't it? Yes. Yep. Or down. Okay, now don't ask me how I did it, but I reamed out these holes. But you really should use about a 10 mil bit. 10 mil gets you right out of trouble. In fact, they're perfect. Look at that, they are perfect. Let's make sure of that. This is actually a pretty soft material. It smells, like I mentioned earlier, it smells, or looks like, and feels like, and actually smells like Bakelite. It must be a very similar material to Bakelite, which was used for switches and power points and circuit breakers and control equipment, electrical control equipment, because it was cheap to make and a good insulator, and it was actually what they used before plastic. Now everything's plastic, but it was a better heat insulator and actually a lot stiffer than plastic, but it was always quite brittle. This doesn't appear to be brittle at all. This is obviously much improved, but yeah, it strikes me as very similar to Bakelite, but that's sitting in there pretty well. I am just going to ream it out ever so slightly. I will tell you how I reamed it out. This is a plaster saw. If ever you want to put a power point on a wall or a switch, or maybe a downlight in a ceiling, you use this thing to cut through the plaster, and I had nothing else, and it's a 20-minute drive from here to my place, and this would be the only reason I need the drill, is just to drill these holes out. So I'm not being lazy, I'm just kind of thinking, well, by the time I spend 40 minutes driving, I may as well just ream these holes out with this. Alright, so that's all gasketed up, and it's now just a case of, I suppose, popping this face down and bolting it. Actually, do you know what I just realized? These bolts, are they going to be long enough? Oh shit, no they're not. Uh-oh, that's going to be a problem. Shit, what am I going to do here? I didn't even think about that. They're just like a self-tapper. They're really just a self-tapper. They're a thick self-tapper. Look, I suppose I could always go get more of these. They're just a self-tapping hex head. They wouldn't even need to be a hex head. Well, they're not a hex head. They're a Torx bit. So, shit, I'm gonna have to put this down anyway. And let's just make sure it's around the right way. Yeah, it is. Okay. Now I have a solution. So I drove back to my place and I pulled out a whole lot of screws, because you know it's now night time and I can't just go down the hardware store or the automotive store, and I had to find a solution. So to me, this is what they call a bugle head. This is a pan head. You know, there's the thread on this one's probably like about an 8 gauge, and this is more like a 7 gauge, so it's not that big a difference in thread, but it is the right length. This one, so it's a little thinner, but what we're going to do is use it nonetheless to solve our problem. Now if you look at that, that is biting really nicely. So I'm just going to sort of untighten these a little bit and then take them back down and squash that gasket in. This one here is not particularly tight actually. Oh, that's not too bad. I'm not convinced that might not rattle out though one day. What I might do is actually, I don't have any silicone, which is what I'd normally use, so what I might do is actually use a bit of Thrillicon, a bit of thread sealer. Thrillicon, now that is a very cool word for silicon. Like if you were selling silicon and you called it Thrillicon, people would come from far and wide to use that. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Look, this isn't actually as dodgy as what it looks, so what I'm going to do is use this as like a thread lock. I've only just come up with this idea, by the way, so I'm feeling a bit proud of myself. So I'm actually going to use this as a little bit of a thread lock, a bit like Loctite. So if you were to put a little bit of this on, that should bite into that thread, and when it dries, it'll be nice and tight. In theory, I'm pretty sure it'll work like that. So one by one, I'm just going to take these guys out, because this particular one here I'm taking out, it doesn't seem to be biting well at all. So use a bit of our Thrillicon. All right, and I guarantee you, because look, if this came rattling out, it's got nowhere to go. And until I got this whole thing back off and pulled this screw out, you just hear this sound of it rattling. So I'm almost certain that that silicon is going to work. Well, it's a gasket, isn't it? It's going to work as like a silicon would as a thread locker. So just going to wipe that away. So we're going to put this back now. I was going to give it a bit of a clean, but I don't think I'm going to bother at the moment. I might just do that at a later date. I'll get in there with a bit of spray and white or degreaser or something. So what I do have to do, and Sonia is going to give me a hand, get this guy in first, and then twist him into place, because honestly there's just no way of getting that out without cutting the pipe here and using a coupling to put it back together, and I didn't want to have to do that. So here we go. Now we're going to have an issue.
Yeah.
Okay, this is where the fun starts. So actually, hang on.
I feel like in is easier than out than unscrewing anything.
I agree, yeah. I think that's it. Hang on a sec, is that it? That's sort of locked
Feels
in,
like
isn't it?
Yeah.
Alright, tell you what, let's Okay, so after making pretty well every mistake in the book, it looks like we've actually come up with a win. And so yeah, this is it. It's seated, and these guys are now threaded. So it must be seated, you know, close enough. Anyway, let me see. I'll just see if I can see any gaps. It's almost impossible to tell if you've got any gaps in there until you hear air rushing in or out. Let's just have a look. No, it looks good. And by theory, if you got the rest of these bolts, some of the ones at the front anyway, they'll line it up, and that will be that. Oh yeah. Is that threading? I kind of can't tell the shit. Is that it? Yep, that's it. Let me just grab this. Oh, because I'm using a 12.5. I don't know where the 13 is. Well, the 1/2 inch anyway, so in America you guys use inches or fractions of inches, and in Australia we use millimeters, which I think is a far easier way to measure things. You know, it's just a single number.
Imperial versus metric system.
That's right, yeah. So, alright, well that's that, hey? Unfortunately, Sonia, I had to remove this insulating panel back here. I don't really see a need for it. No, I had to break it. I actually had to tear it off because, yeah.
Did it look pretty?
No, it didn't actually. It looks better now, to be honest with you.
Did it serve a purpose?
Well,
an important one?
Probably. but not anymore, because it's broken. And could you pass me the Torx bit set, babe? Is that the right one? Yeah, that is. What are those two for? Oh shit, this guy. Okay, yep, can't forget him. This guy in here.
This is the Torx thing. I don't know what that is.
No, that's the socket set. The orange set down there, babe. Okay, anyway, look, I'm going to button all this up, and we'll get it, we'll get it fired up. Well, we won't fire it up today, simply because you're meant to leave this for, they say, 24 hours. That's not going to happen, because I got to drive around and do some things tomorrow. But it's late tonight. Probably I'll be, I'll drive it around about 10 o'clock in the morning. So a good 12 hours. I mean, if a gasket's not sealing in 12 hours, well, I'd be very surprised. So button it up and have a bit of a play around with it when it's all done. Okay, so it's the next day. Installed my Plenum last night, and you know what's interesting? Every time I do a little bolt-on mod, I never know if it's a placebo effect. You feel like you get in your car and you suddenly feel something like a difference. I wonder if, maybe that's just something happening in your mind. You've spent a bit of time and a bit of money and effort on your car, and you get in it and you want an improvement, you want a gain. but well, is it a placebo? Is it psychological? Perhaps, but I'm about to find out. I know this car pretty well. It's my daily driver, gets me to and from work and here and there, so I know it pretty well. And I will say that any small change, I feel like I can pick it up immediately. So I will say as well that I removed the baffle, that little air baffle on the very opening of the Plenum. I removed that, cut it away. I filed it back, made it really smooth, sanded it down so that there wouldn't be any extra resistance for the air. So that's going to be an additional change. So it's going to be hard to tell which one. But anyway, they're working together. You could remove that baffle without taking the Plenum off, but you would get a lot of debris, a lot of rubbish inside the Plenum, and you'd want to vacuum it out very carefully. But look, I would recommend you take the Plenum off if you're going to remove those baffles. And but nonetheless, it's one less thing that will restrict the airflow. I sort of ported out the whole of that opening of the Plenum. I cleaned up my throttle body, and well, I waited, about 12 hours for the gasket sealer or the gasket maker to set, to cure, and I can only imagine that it's probably pretty rock hard. In fact, it looked and felt pretty good from the outside. So it's only, it's not at huge pressure. This car isn't boosted, so I can't see bits of it falling away. So right after I reinstalled the Plenum, I was doing some Googling, and I saw a guy online who had uploaded a photo of his own LFX Plenum, and he had painted it, and it looked really cool. It was painted yellow with the top of the fins kind of pinstriped in black, and I just thought it looked really trick. So I took my own Plenum off and I painted it. Look, it's no secret that the LFX Plenum is, I mean, it's not a very attractive object, and you know, it's sat there in the middle of your engine bay, front and center. When you pop your hood, you want to see something that appeals, and that just does not appeal to me. So, and I don't think I'm alone in that. I read some forums and people sort of feel the same way, that the part looks a bit unfinished, like it was never really meant to be exposed. And by the way, I wasn't able to get the engine cover back on this motor now that the Plenum sits 12 mil higher. You're not going to get your engine cover back on. You could probably mess around with the brackets, but I just decided to leave the thing off and be done with it. Okay, now the car's pretty well warmed up now. I'm just going to pull up here, let a few cars pass, and then I'm going to give it a bit of a squirt, and we'll see if I'm noticing anything like a significant difference. What am I expecting? Look, I'd like to think that there's going to be a little bit better flow with the removal of that baffle, but the Plenum itself, it should definitely provide some thermal insulation between the inlet manifold and the Plenum itself. So it, you know, while ever it remains cooler, you're obviously going to have denser oxygen, and you might have a little bit more power, a little bit more fuel economy. Your AFR, the computer should pick up on the extra airflow through those MAF sensors and say, all right, well, maybe we need a little less fuel because we got all this air. So hopefully it runs a little leaner, because I feel like it might be running a little bit rich. All right, just let this guy pass. I'm going to give it a pull, and we'll see if I feel any difference. I got my dog in my lap, so she's going to go flying with any luck. All right, here we go. Oh yeah, that's made a big difference. Yes, that's not just me saying it. There is a difference there. I like that. I really like that. Yeah, that's given that a good amount of airflow. That's really increased it. Geez, I'll tell you what, that feels like that'd have to be 10%, maybe 12% increase just off the mark there. I'll just do that again. That was in second, third. Oh, there we go. Look at that. Yeah, that's given me a significant amount of. Watch out! Don't hit this guy on his surfboard. Guy riding his bike with a surfboard. Look, I recommend it immediately. I think this is a good add-on. Look, I took my time with this one. It took me about 2 hours, a little bit over 2 hours. Then I pulled the Plenum off and painted it. Probably another hour and a bit there. I enjoy it. You know, I think there's only a finite number of things you can do to these cars. I mean, well, there's probably not. You could just keep going and get every mod, you could supercharge this, you could twin turbo it, you could, you know, it's tempting to do the rear diff, change the ratio there, maybe to a 391. But in fact, that would probably be something worth considering, changing that rear diff ratio just to get a bit more torque. I know that these motors are very torquey, and that diff ratio doesn't really take advantage of that low end torque. So that might be something I think I'll consider very soon. Yeah, this feels very good. And look, it's a mod that honestly, if I didn't feel anything, I wouldn't remove it. I still wouldn't remove it. I'd leave it there just for its thermal characteristics, the fact that it's able to insulate the plenum from that heat. It's definitely going to make that difference. Look, the car's not giving me any hiccups. It's not stuttering or anything else because of the removal as well of that baffle. I think that's a worthwhile little change to make. Car's driving beautifully. I mean, I'm just you know, cruising around now. It doesn't feel any different, but when I put my foot down there before, it didn't throw me into my seat, but I could feel a significant difference. I mean, I would feel a 5% difference in this car, and that there was a 10% difference. No kidding. I mean, it's pushing you a little harder into your seat, and I mean, that's what we do this for, right? It's just to feel that little bit of power. All right, there you go. So that's it for the 12mm plenum spacer. I'm a fan. If you're going to do it, remove that baffle as well. Look, you could probably remove your baffle in situ without pulling the plenum off, but I wouldn't, because you're going to get a lot of rubbish when you file into the plenum. That's the last thing you want. This is going to end up down in through the head and probably mess up your intake, and that just could get ugly. So just spend that little extra time if you're not going to do a plenum spacer. Having said that, if you're going to remove your plenum for any reason, put the spacer in. But yeah, unfortunately the cover's not going to go on. Well, not the end of the world. Dress up your plenum like I have. In fact, I'll show you that, and I'll show you what I came up with. I painted it black, and nice matte black, gave it a coat of nice matte black heat paint, and I got a really nice silver pen, which I actually thought would turn out just to be silver, but it actually looks like shiny chrome. It was a Uni, a pen from a brand called Uni, which I think is a European paint pen brand. I bought it from a stationer, like a newsagent. So yeah, definitely I'll show you that, and I think you'll approve, because it looks very cool. It looks a bit like you know, a machined aluminium top that's kind of had the paint been painted in their machine, and you get that really kind of crisp edge. It looks like metal actually instead of plastic now, which I think is kind of cool. Anytime I open up my hood, I mean, it's the first thing you see, and it's pretty bloody daggy, those plenums. I don't think anybody's going to argue with that. So yeah, I think this has been a worthwhile project. Believe me, I would have told you if I thought it was a waste of time, but the more you drive around, the hotter the engine gets. The plenum stays cool. You get that thermal benefit, and that can't be a bad thing. So there you go, plenum spacers. I recommend them. If ever you're thinking about doing it and you've got a couple hours on your hand, a couple of $100, go for it. So here we are, just on the side of the road. Now you can see that the car's running. You can see how I've touched up the very top of the plenum there with that silver paint pen. I think that looks pretty trick, actually. I don't know if you can see down underneath. Well, you probably can't make it out, but there is a bigger gap in here now. I suppose that 12mm has brought the bottom of the plenum right up off that edge there of that head. So, you know, immediately you're going to get a little more airflow through there. And of course the plenum itself will be insulated, but I mean, that's not hot at all. Well, it'd be 45, 50 degrees, I reckon. So that's made a big difference. So yeah, definitely a mod worth considering, but yeah, I think that looks kind of cool, hey? The silver just kind of dresses it up a bit. Like I said, not the most attractive part of the engine bay, but I don't think that's really made that pop. And I think I'm going to leave that engine cover off. So there you go. Plenum spacer and air baffle just behind the throttle body has been removed. Car drives great.